Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to another Friday Reads. I'm really getting the hang of it. So, yes, Friday Reads. The books should move the camera mid-film. The books I finished, the books I started, the books I'm in the middle of. Yeah, can you tell I'm excited? Anyway, let's get started. First, the books that I finished. I finished 3 books, but all of them were for the BooktubePrize. I'm a judge in the quarterfinals nonfiction, Group A. If you're not familiar with the BooktubePrize, I will leave a link to the website of the BooktubePrize and the YouTube channel, and also the channel of the organizer, Robert from Bader-Holtz. He's organizing the whole thing, so you can have a look. But basically, it is people involved in BookTube, whether as a content creator or a regular commenter, are judging books that in now 2021 we judge books published in the US in 2020. And there's a category fiction and a category nonfiction, and I'm judging nonfiction. And the first book I finished and obviously can't talk about until this round, the quarterfinals are done, which is end of May. I read The Dead Are Arising, a biography of Malcolm X by Les Payne, a Black American journalist, but he died before he could finish, unfortunately, before he could finish the biography. So his daughter Tamara finished. So it's Les Payne and Tamara Payne. I listened to that one on audio, and even though I can't talk about the book, I can tell you that the audiobook is really, really good. The narrator is really good, and it was a pleasure to listen to that voice. The second book I finished for the BooktubePrize is Robert Kolker, Hidden Valley Road, also published obviously in 2020. And this one is about a family, as you can see from the cover, with many, many children. It's a family with 12 children, and 6 of the sons were diagnosed over the course of their early life, so not children, but young adults with schizophrenia. And the author takes the story of this family. The oldest child was born just after World War II, and the youngest child was born in the 1960s, to also tell us something about the history of treatments for schizophrenia in the 20th century. So it's a sort of a dual biography of this family, but also of the treatment of schizophrenia. And the third book I finished for the quarterfinals is by Sonia Shah, The Next Migration. You might be familiar with Sonia Shah. She is a science journalist. And she wrote, in my opinion, fabulous book about malaria a couple of years ago. And this one is exploring the idea of migration and tackles the negativity that we attach to migration. You know, immigrants are not good people and they should stay where they are. But she also explores in her book not only migration by human beings, but also by other animals. And whether or not her main question is whether or not migration is something natural, quote unquote, that we have to deal with, if you will. So those were the 3 books that I finished last week, all for the BooktubePrize. I have 2 more books to go for the quarterfinals, but I will read those beginning of May. Then there are the books for Aussie April. I already started one last week, also a non-fiction book, Rebecca Giggs, Fathoms, The World in the Whale. Published last year, also 2020, and this book, I picked it for the Aussie April to read Australian literature, but the book is also shortlisted for the Stellar Prize, the most important prize for female literature in Australia. I'm reading this with Heidi from My Reading Life. And as the book says in the title, it's all about whales. So the author came across a humpback dying, being stranded in Australia, on the shores of Australia, and dying there. And I said hunchback in my previous video, but it's not a hunchback, it's a humpback. Sorry about that. I'm not a nature person, but I'm slowly developing into one, thanks to my friends Heidi and Doris, with whom I read all these nature books and naturalist books. But anyway, so this book explores the world of the whale. Each chapter has a specific topic related to whales. So, for instance, the first chapter is about whaling and the history of whaling. Then you have a chapter about the pollution and the way we the whale tourism. Let's put it like that. And she thinks about these topics, but she also gives facts and figures and numbers. And I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I have really the good fortune of reading this with Heidi, because she can provide context for me, because she works in marine biology. So she has a much broader and much deeper understanding of what is going on. And so reading this book with her is just fabulous. But apart from the fact that the Buddyread is fantastic and gives me more information, I'm really enjoying the book. It's quite densely written. So it's not an easygoing kind of journalistic writing style. There's quite some deep thoughts and difficult language, if you will, for want of a better expression. But I'm learning so much, and it's fascinating. And the research she did is really extremely interesting. We are halfway through, so I will certainly keep you updated about this book, Fathoms, all about whales. And the next book for Aussie April is a book that I just started last week, and that is The Yield by Tara June Winch, which won, obviously, the 2020 Miles Franklin Award. Tara June Winch is a First Nation Australian author, and this book, I'm buddy reading it, by the way, with Brian from Bookish, and we have our first check-in today for the first 100 pages, which I read day before yesterday and yesterday. And the book is told in 3 parts. We have a very long letter written by a white priest, a reverend in 1915-ish, about what happened back then. Let's put it like that. Then we have the present day, a young woman called August who lived abroad, not in Australia, for a decade or more, but goes home for her grandfather's funeral. And there she lives on the property that her grandmother still lives on, but it's clear that they have to leave because of oil mining things, and they obviously don't own the property. So that is the present day plot. And then you have the grandfather's journal, in which he looks at words in his indigenous language, and talks about those words and what they mean in general, but also what they mean to him. It's a fascinating book. It's really a pity that this book is not, for instance, wasn't longlisted for the Women's Prize, because it came out in the UK in March, so it was definitely eligible. But maybe it was not sent in. We will never know. And then I also started a buddy read with Kathleen, from Kathleen. Anne used to be a booktuber, but at the moment doesn't make any booktube videos, but I'm sure she will return at some point. And we are reading Detransition Baby by Tory Peters, which came out earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a 2021 release. no, I'm sorry, 2020. So last year. And Tory Peters is a trans author, and this is about trans women. Reese, then Ames, who used to be Amy, a trans woman, but detransitioned back to a man. And you have also a cis woman, Katerina, Ames's boss. And after his detransition, Ames has an affair with Katrina, and she gets pregnant. And his ex girlfriend or wife, Reese, this threesome, trying to figure out what to do about the pregnancy and the child. We just started the first chapter. I wasn't blown away, on the contrary, but I will hold my breath until I'm further into the book. More books that I started in April, and both are also Buddyreads. And the first one is a short story collection, Gorilla My Love by Tony K. Bambera, first published in 1972. And I'm reading this with Sean the Book Maniac, and we read one short story each week, and then we check in on Saturday. So we had one story. We didn't start the 1st of April because I was away, but we have read one short story, and we both really, really loved it. I have never read Tony Kate Bambera, I have to admit. She was a Black American writer, activist, and scholar. She died young in 1995. And she was only in her 50s. It was Sean's suggestion. Thank you very much, Sean. Otherwise, I probably would have never read anything by this author. And the first story was captivating, fabulous. So I am very much looking forward to tomorrow when we check in with the next story. And the last book I want to mention that I started recently, 2 or 3 days ago, as I said, another buddy read, is a book for my sci-fi project. If you remember, if you're following my channel, that for 2021, one of my reading projects is to read modern classics by sci-fi classics by female authors that I hadn't read yet, and one of them is this one, Joanna Russ, The Female Man, which was published in the 1970s. And I had never read anything by Joanna Russ. I'm buddy reading this with Kim from Middle of the Book March, and we will have our first check-in today on Friday. So we read the first 3 chapters, about 70 pages, and all I can say is the book is weird, and I'm probably too stupid to understand it, but hopefully Kim will be able to help me out. The premise of the book is we have 4 women, Janet, Janine, Jael, and Joanna, the author, and they all live in different parallel universes, if you will, but they at some point they meet, and then they compare notes. And it's all about the female experience in these various universes. The book is told in quite short snippets, and yeah, it's interesting but weird. And I have to, get my head around what am I reading, but I will keep you posted after Kim explains the book to me, hopefully. Anyway, these are the books that I read, that I finished, that I'm still reading, and that I started. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, I'm looking forward to your comments, and like I said last week, yes, I'm incredibly behind with answering comments. I'm extremely sorry about it, but that is in no way a reflection of me not being interested in comments. It's just that sometimes I can't find the time, to answer the comments, but I will do my best to catch up this weekend. So don't not leave a comment because I haven't answered your previous comment from 2 weeks ago, please. And in any case, happy weekend, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.